bridge. Your narrative of state school children being disadvantaged and you want to level it up, and you've actively just disadvantaged them by taking away funding for maths, further maths and Latin. Now, I get that there's no money in the pot. You've offered teachers a 2.8% pay increase, but you haven't given them any money to pay it. So they're having to pay it from existing budgets, which means they either won't get the pay increase or they will have to get rid of teaching assistants and teachers. Before you turn around and say, well, the private school should pay for it, we've already ascertained that the VAT raid won't bring that money in. So you've got to find a new way of making that money, which I've given you so many ideas for. But I think because you'd rather stick to your argument of what it just has to come from private schools, you're not prepared to look and see where that money could come from. But there's loads of ideas of where that money could come from. You just don't want to hear them. But back to Latin, maths and further maths. If you were to give schools autonomy so that they could decide what they do with their budgets and how they spend that, then we might be able to keep these programmes, because in some areas there may be no uptake for any of the subjects, and in other areas there may be a massive uptake for those subjects. So by letting teachers actually work it out for themselves, they could probably keep providing them. And let's not forget that private schools do Latin, maths and further maths. And so there could be an opportunity for a collaboration there, couldn't there? There could be an opportunity for, if you've got just a small intake from state school, could they not go up and do it at the private school? I mean, I can't see why that wouldn't be a thing. But, you know, you'd need to have the two sides talking to each other and you'd need to support that. And that's where it all falls down a bit. Now, the reason that this hits home for me so much is because my son does maths, further maths, economics and physics. And he's doing those 4 subjects specifically to do specific courses at specific universities. Now, we know that's going to be harder for him, not because of his outcome. He's predicted really good grades in that, but we know it's going to be harder for him because he's at private school. So he's disadvantaged. He's advantaged in as much as he's able to do the subject. He's disadvantaged by his background because universities are being told to not take as many children from private schools. Now, the child in state school, they would like to take maths, further maths or Latin, but they can't because the funding has been cut. So they can't get off the starting line to go to these universities, but these universities would take them if they'd got them because they're allowed to take children from state education. So the net result is the private school child and the state school child are both disadvantaged. Now, there's no good outcome of that, is there? The university doesn't get the intake that it needs, so the university will probably start dropping courses that include maths, further maths and Latin, because if nobody wants to do them, they're not going to get any revenue, and if they're not going to get any revenue, there's no point doing the course. So if we back chain it, upwards, downwards, downwards, upwards, doesn't matter which way you want to do it. If we back chain it, there's no good outcome because society as a whole then misses out on the talent that would have gone through university studying these subjects to then use them in their careers. But that's now not available. So we're going to have a lack of all manner of people available to work in careers that need these subjects because programmes were cut at school and we were actively told not to take private school pupils. So you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. It felt quite meaty and wordy saying that. I might have another go at this in a couple of days when my head's around it because I'm still really struggling to make sense of it because it doesn't make sense. But I'm going to give you the unedited, slightly wordy, messy one because that's what this is. Messy. Because in the same way that I'm thinking this through as I go, so are you. Well, you're not actually thinking it through, are you? But it's like you're learning on the job, which in education there is no time for. You wouldn't learn on the job if you were a heart surgeon, would you? You'd kind of know what you were doing. How you even got this role is beyond me. How you're in it now is still beyond me. I mean, I'd like to cut the funding for the education secretary. There we go! There we go, Bridget! I've just solved a problem.